You are listening to INTERFORM Podcast with Ro on the radio. You're going to want to hear this.
Welcome to INTERFORM Podcast. I'm Ro on the radio. This episode of INTERFORM Podcast is brought to you by INTERFORM Make. If you have questions about small batch manufacturing, go to interform.art/make. Now, my special guest today is Irvin Comacho. Did I say your name? Your last name correctly.
You got it.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know who Irvin is, Irvin, tell the people what you do and who you are. He has a podcast.
I do. Everybody's got a podcast nowadays. But I am a community rights organizer. I mainly have focused on immigrant rights, most of my activism. But I do a little bit of everything. I also have the District 3 podcast. It's available everywhere you listen to podcasts. I serve on the board of the ACLU of Arkansas as well. I am a bail disruptor for the Bail Project, which is a nonprofit organization that helps out incarcerated folks here in Washington and Benton County. We provide community support so that they can get their cases closed and get back to living their life with their families and their job and everything. And I think that's the gist of like what I do, but there's other stuff that I do, but I don't want to overwhelm you.
Well, that's a lot. I think you're doing some good work. So tell me how you got involved with being a community rights organizer. Like, what made you want to be in that role?
So back when I was in high school, I was part of Bulldog News, which is the news program in Springdale. And I would try to do stories about like people making a difference in the community. So I'd be interviewing like these figures in our community that are doing good work. And I tried slipping in some like stories that were a little bit more controversial to the newscast. Like I would talk about undocumented people and just things happening in the immigrant community. And there was a friend who saw those news stories. She is undocumented herself. And she said, hey, I noticed that you're interested in this topic. We have meetings at my house every week. And we talk about, how we can organize our communities and what we can do to make them better. And that was back in like 2009, I believe.
Okay.
And
you were in high school in 2000?
17 years old.
You are so young.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I turn 31 next month, so anytime I can hear that.
I'll be 41. All right, go ahead.
We're still young. So I attended one of those meetings, and I was bitten by the activist bug. I think I realized, because specifically the people that were there, a lot of them were undocumented. The majority of them were undocumented. And it really got me thinking, I'm a very privileged individual. Not only do I have like male privilege, but I have privilege of being a United States citizen. I don't have to worry. I'm going to be able to get my driver's license. I'm going to be able to go to college and get a house because I have, the legality in this country, and my friends didn't. So for me at that point, I was like, what can I do? What work can I be a part of, or what work can I do individually to level out the playing field for other individuals? And from there, I just, started there with the Natural Dreamers back in 2009, and it just evolved into so many other things, and I haven't stopped ever since. But there's a lot of good people in our community that are doing the work, that are doing really good work. I just happen to work with like everybody. And maybe that makes me a little bit more visible because I'm working with like the most extreme leftists, and I'm also working with like moderate Democrats on different things. Right. And I feel like that gives me visibility and stuff, but I do want to, just reiterate that there is a lot of good people doing similar work that I'm doing in the community as well.
Absolutely. If someone wants to be a community rights organizer, like say you're talking to someone who is still in high school, like maybe in the position that you were in, what would you tell them? What would you think that they, need to be aware of or need to expect and need to know?
Yeah, so I recently spoke to some students at the University of Arkansas a few months ago and about that topic. Like I was supposed to teach them or just get them thinking as to, what's important to them. Because I feel like initially you have to figure out, what do you care about? Do you care about animal rights? Do you care about immigrant rights? Do you care about like Black Lives Matter? Right. All these different things. Think about what really you care about. And then, something simple as like a Google search or going to your Facebook events and seeing if there's anything like regarding that topic around the area. Okay. I feel like now it's a little bit more easier I just happened to stumble upon it, and it was through a community event. Now it's like I feel events, you'll see them on Instagram, you'll see them on Facebook. A Google search can find you if there is any events of what you're looking for, or organizations that are doing good work in that area, and get yourself in an uncomfortable situation and just show up.
And have those tough conversations with people and just try to get involved.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to. You're not going to be ignorant if you don't know, like what's going on or how you can help. I feel like there's people everywhere that will, show you and not treat you as like an ignorant person because you don't know enough about the subject, and just I think it goes back to it once again. And I mentioned this in like the conversations that I have with people. I'll say, put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. That's how you're going to get to know people, and that's how you're going to start really getting involved in the community and whatever you're interested in. And that's how you're going to make the biggest difference, I think.
Yeah. As far as being a community rights organizer, what are some challenges that you have encountered?
For me personally, it does become overwhelming when people reach out to you for everything.
Okay.
Because when you organize in the Latino community, for example, people will reach out to you about anything
that maybe is not something that you
an expert in.
Okay.
And for me, I always try to please everyone. And literally, I had to go to therapy to talk about this because it was getting to the point where it was overwhelming. And some people understand like time, how, I have my own things going on with like my work, I'm married, I have a dog, like I have family, other stuff that I have to take care of my business, right?
Right.
And sometimes people expect, fast replies, or if you don't reply in time, they get mad at you and think that you just think you're better than everyone else. And it's like, no, it's just like, I'm a human, I don't have time. And I spoke to my therapist about that. And she really helped me understand that you can't please everyone. And another thing that comes to my mind when you ask that question is perception. Sometimes because you're very visible, because people come to you, to do interviews or to be a part of a project, people think that you just think that you're better than everyone else, or that you're a super important person. But the sad reality is that sometimes there's not enough people that are willing to speak out on things, that are willing to put their name out there, or simply that don't feel comfortable being in front of cameras and stuff. But there has to be people of color representing us. I try my best personally whenever there's like interview requests to try to send it to a friend that I feel is an expert.
There we go.
Try to just share like the interviews and stuff like that. But a lot of people don't feel comfortable, tackling the issues with everybody watching them. So perception can kind of be a big thing.
And the work-life balance, because I'm assuming people contact you when you're not working, like maybe at like evening hours, and you're having to like decide whether or not you want to reply at that time or not, or like set a boundary. And it's like, well, if I don't respond,
if you click on that message and it shows
red,
it shows red, and you're not responding within an hour, and then I get a message, they'll be like, okay, well, thanks for helping me anyways.
Oh,
and I'm like,
my goodness.
and part of me is like, I do want to react sometimes, like not the best way, but I give people grace.
Sure. You never know what's going on,
what they're going through.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I do think that there needs to be more, people need to think more about that there are people that, are trying to help, but they can't answer them right away, or can't always have the answer for them. I'm not an expert on everything. I just try my best on certain things. And if I have the answer, I'll tell you. If I don't have the answer, I've gotten to a point now where I feel comfortable saying, I don't know.
That's good. You gotta set some boundaries. What are some of the things that you love about being a community rights organizer?
I think just besides the obvious of like helping people, I think that's the driving force behind it. But I do like to see people succeed, like other people succeed. I do like the equal playing field is important to me, because I want people to be able to get a house, get a job,
Absolutely.
Live happily with their families, not have to worry about, in the case of undocumented people getting deported, their family members getting deported. And that's something that people still live with on a daily basis, like when their parents are driving without a license, when simply just existing, And so what I love is being able to work with other individuals to create an equal playing field and just help people, have that successful. It doesn't necessarily have to be the American, what do they call it? The American dream, right? Because that's
right. That looks different to different people.
Yeah, that's complicated.
Yes.
And I know a lot of my activist friends don't like that saying.
Oh, that term. I understand.
So,
I understand.
But I do want them to be, whatever they might see as success and happiness. Like I want not only my friends, but people in the community that are oppressed and that don't have that equal playing field to just be happy. And ultimately, for me, that's the most important thing. And also just, hanging out with good people that do good work. I'm lucky that most of my best friends are activists and or community minded. So like at my birthday gatherings or whatever, we're talking about not too serious stuff, but we talk about issues, and it's good to have people in your circle that care about other people.
That are on the same page.
Yeah. Some of them are a little bit complicated. I'm not going to lie. There's some that will criticize me all the time or criticize other people, but I give them grace.
Sure.
I understand where they're coming from.
Well, you're teaching me something because giving grace is something that I should probably, I should work on.
It's hard.
I want to get into kind of a touchy subject. So the new governor has made it one of her first orders of action to take out the word Latinx from government documents. I'm just going to say this. I think there are more important things to take care of.
Yeah.
And I also feel like it may be because she doesn't understand it and because to me, it seems like an attack on the Latin community. That is a personal opinion. It may or may not be the opinion of INTERFORM. I just want to put that out there. But I have so many questions. I would like to know from your perspective, why is that the first order of business for her?
So I've had time to think about that, and my opinion has evolved. Originally, I also thought, it's an attack on the Latin community. But after, seeing people's comments and just kind of taking time to think about it, I think it's more of an attack on the trans and non-binary community. That is Latinx, but also just in general. So one of the things that our governor says is that the majority of the folks in the Latinx community hate the term.
And how does she know that?
I don't know who she's spoken to.
Okay. That was another question.
She didn't speak to any of my friends.
Right.
Or she didn't speak to any major organization, Latinx organization in our state, unless, I don't know who she spoke with. The majority of the population doesn't understand it.
Okay.
There's a big difference.
Yes, there is.
Just the same way that there's folks that, like myself, that use the term to be inclusive. Once I learned, how I could be inclusive by using that term, there's also a small population of folks that don't like it.
Okay.
And from my
the small population is in the Latin community?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say, just by my experience, and this is not official data, but my experience, it's like young men that identify as conservative, Latino men. And maybe most of the times it's like, these people that have the mentality of like, lift yourself up by your bootstraps kind of mentality. Like, I work hard, so you should work hard to get what you want, which doesn't work for everyone.
Correct.
It doesn't matter. Everybody's got different starting points,
Say it.
Right? Yeah, right?
Ooh, preach. Okay.
Yeah, like I started, I listened to a podcast the other day it was talking about reparations, about how we've never given the Black community reparations and like how their starting point is way different.
It's a lot different.
Right? And it's like, people don't think about that.
No.
It's so easy to say, work hard but not everyone. There's folks that were raised in communities that, they struggle more because of where they live, who their parents are, and just maybe money wasn't available like it is for a lot of people. Going back to the Latinx term, I've never used Latinx with my parents or with my sister. My sister she's more understanding, but I've never used it with my parents or any family gathering.
Okay.
because we don't. I mean, when you think about it, it doesn't really come up. But we don't really say like, "Oh, we're Latinx." That's weird, you know, for us to say that. We don't say like, "Oh, we're Hispanics" either. We don't like the conversation never comes up. So I think the percentage is 3% that use the term, and we're using it just to be inclusive.
Okay.
Like it doesn't hurt us to use language that a community has told us they prefer to feel like they're more welcome. Like why is that even a thing?
Right.
You know, for us, and we use Latinx, we use Latina. Latina is a little bit more easier to pronounce in Spanish.
Okay.
That's why you barely ever hear anybody say Latinx. Like Latina sounds more, because people use the E for like estudiante, which means student. So it rolls easier than the X. But like I said, there really isn't any reason for her to do that.
Right.
You can tell from the get-go that it was just to make a political statement. It's like, what can I do? She's probably thinking, well, I have no plans. I really don't have any efficient plans. So what can I do to make an impact with my base? Let's attack woke culture, and let's attack brown people, and let's attack, the trans and non-binary community, because they didn't vote for me. And Arkansas is a non-voting state. It's not a conservative state. There's a lot of registered voters. There's a lot of people that can. They just don't vote. Yeah.
Wow.
And now we're suffering the consequences because of that. So, for the people that on social media, when I posted about Latinx on Twitter and did all this interviews the past few days, those conservative young men, Latinos, came out of the woodworks like they always do, and talking about how they agree with Sarah and how it's good. But these are the same people that don't interact with trans and non-binary folks, the same people that are not organizing in our communities and haven't really been put in a situation where they listen to someone and they tell you why language matters.
Exactly.
And why, language can lead to suicides. Language can lead to so much. And if you don't experience that, then I understand why your viewpoint would be that way.
Sure.
But the only problem here is that on day one, Sarah did that, right? So like, what else is she going to do? Exactly. And if you're supporting her because you think that this is a good thing from day one, you should be concerned, because you don't know what laws are gonna come up in the legislative cycle.
Because it's all good until it's a law that affects you, right?
Yeah.
So my thing is, I just find it interesting that, and it's okay for people to have different perspectives and different viewpoints, but when there are laws made from those different perspectives and viewpoints, I just feel like it's a violation of someone's human rights and availability, or the ability to feel safe, right? Because it's totally okay if you don't agree. Like, I don't agree with, infant babies having their own pages and people like responding as a baby. Yeah. But I'm not going to.
I thought you were going to say dogs, bro. And I was like, I got a dog page on Instagram. So don't.
No, the babies is worse. The babies is worse. But, I'm not going to make a law that says like, I don't think that. I think it just infringes on people's human rights, and it's bad to me. I feel like it's very selfish. Now, as far as Latinx do people feel like it's a bad word? Like, why is it such a hot button?
I don't think. Well, I guess if we talk about the community that doesn't like it,
let's start.
If we talk about them, this is the same community that follows Andrew Tate.
That guy.
There's a correlation there. And you know what I did?
A little misogyny?
A lot of these people that were replying to me on Twitter, I went to their Twitter and I went to their Twitter, who they follow, Andrew Tate. They love Elon Musk, and they love all these conservative pundits. So I was like, okay, there's a correlation there.
Sure.
And if you go through their feed, there's a lot of, pro men, like anti-women, anti-feminine, all these different things, and I'm just like,
Andrew
okay,
Tate.
Yeah. Even after all these allegations have came up, they're still ride.
They are on the bus, right? Okay.
So I'm like, I can't fix everyone.
Sure.
And I'm not going to invest energy in trying to explain to everyone individually why they're wrong or why I or other people are right. But I will say that it does make me sad, that these folks do not interact with, loving people from the trans and non-binary community who are some of the best people I know, and I've met quite a few and listened to their stories. And I will always use language that's inclusive because I understand how it can be hurtful not to.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for those individuals because, they haven't experienced that. And they are the kind of folks that, they have these conservative mindsets simply because, lack of experience of being with these communities or having a family member that is going through it.
Right.
And that's also another way to kind of, get your mind open to be more inclusive and to be more loving and less hateful.
Sometimes a lot of them have family members who are,
That's true.
and they choose to, go in a different direction, either because they don't understand it or because they don't agree with it. I found that whoever you hate ends up being in your family. So if you hate a certain group of people, you can probably pinpoint that group exists in your family, and there's something that happened there or something that didn't happen, as far as like a hard conversation. So where do we go from here? Let's say the term Latinx is going to be excluded from all government documents.
Yeah.
So what do we do now? What do people who prefer to use or prefer that term to be used when referring to them, what do they do?
So I do want to say that, this is my viewpoint. There's going to be different viewpoints before anybody in the comment section says, oh, he doesn't represent me.
There it is.
Because I've gotten that already when this whole Latinx situation is like, oh, he doesn't represent me. I speak for myself. I'm like, okay, then go organize. Get your community. But from what I've gathered the past few days since this happened is that a good portion of our community that used the term Latinx wants to start adapting Latin. That's a term that people have been using for years already.
Okay.
And I had heard about it, but I hadn't really used it. I've stuck with Latinx. So Latinx is like to describe everyone, right? When you men, women, in between, non-binary, trans, everybody. If I describe myself, like if I do a panel, I'll be Latino because I'm a man.
Okay.
Right? That's what I identify as. So Latino, and then women, Latina. Another reason why people use Latinx, for example, besides being inclusive, is like if there's a room full of men, of Latino men, it's Latinos, right?
Right.
One woman comes in, it's not Latina, it doesn't turn to Latina, it still stays Latinos, So it's still like men dominant. If there's a woman, a room full of women, and one man comes in, it's a room full of Latinos now, even though there's like 30 women and one man. So like just things like that. There's different factors, so it's really complicated. But I'll still use Latinx.
Okay.
It's gonna piss people off, but it's gonna piss people off that don't like the term. But I'm gonna use Latinx and Latina as well. So now I'm starting to, whenever I mention it, I will say Latinx/Latina.
Okay.
Just to be inclusive. It's gonna take a lot of education to get that percentage of 3% to be higher, and will we change our parents' minds? Probably not.
No.
So we have a new generation now, and we can start from here. This is a starting point, right? The folks that have adapted it, but we're never gonna force it on anybody.
No.
That's the thing. People think that we're over here, being like, we're gonna force Latinx on everybody, and if you don't say it, you're wrong. It's never been like that.
No.
But Sarah's trying to portray it that way, and she's trying to, just show how much we hate it, but it never comes up in conversation on our dinner table.
Right.
And even if there was people that hated it, who did she speak to?
That was my main question, is for her to have that bold statement as, to say that the community doesn't even use the word. I was like, did you talk to anybody?
Least if you did talk to someone, at least have them in the room when you're signing the executive order. If you look at the video of it, it's just white men and her and maybe a white lady.
Yeah.
and it's like, where's the brown person you spoke with about this?
Exactly. Who did you connect with on this?
And sometimes, like, I do find myself in debates, with, like, I don't know why, but conservative state representatives try to, like, debate me on random things on Twitter a lot. And I have seen them, use that Latinx term to kind of, try to troll a little bit to me. So it gets me thinking, I'm like, oh, okay. So maybe it wasn't even about, anybody disliking the term. Like, you're just using that as like, you think that I'm using that to be woke, and you're just trying to be anti-woke.
Oh,
so you're trying to make a
there
statement.
it is.
Yeah, so there's different factors that I feel inspired her to do that. One, to be anti-trans, non-binary, but then also just to be anti-woke culture.
Absolutely.
And if you're anti-woke culture, a lot of the time you just don't want to be held accountable for your words and for your actions. so that's, yeah.
Ooh, you said a mouthful right there. Well, we're going to wrap this up because I feel like we can talk forever on this. Tell everybody where they could reach you if you have time. I don't want to add to, you're already stressful. Like, I know you're everywhere and you're very busy, but what is a good way for people to connect with you if they have questions or maybe if they want you for an interview, anything like that?
Yeah. On Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, just look up Irvin Comacho and I'll pop up. And I don't want to make anyone feel like they can't message me. They can. Just know that I might take my time. Just don't be upset.
There you go.
That's the only thing I ask. But yeah, I'm not on Snapchat. I am on TikTok though.
Okay.
So you can send me a message anywhere. And even if it's not like an interview, if you do have a question about stuff that I can't help out with, I'll try my best. Just give me some time, please.
Absolutely. You're going to be an announcer. I feel like by the time this episode comes out, you already have been. Like, aren't you an announcer for a sporting event?
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday. How'd that go?
It went really good.
Okay.
It wasn't my first time.
Did you wear a tie?
I didn't, but I dressed up. Like, I suited up. Nice shoes, new black suede shoes. Like,
clean with
fresh
it.
haircut. Like, I went in and it was great. I enjoyed it so much.
All right.
So I look forward to doing that again. But thank you for inviting me here.
Absolutely.
Now you need to come on my podcast so then we can do like
District 3 podcast
on all KUAF platforms, Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Irvin. That was INTERFORM Podcast. I'm Ro on the radio. Make sure you connect with us on interform.art. And you can follow me on Instagram. It's RO_on_the radio. I got a new account. I'll talk to y'all about that later. Bye.
You are listening to INTERFORM Podcast with Ro on the radio. You're going to want to hear this.